the cold and the rain, hundreds of Israelis gather in Tel Aviv to protest the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Bibi, as he's known, is a political mastermind and a survivor. He's been in power here for nearly 8 years, but a new scandal threatens his reign. And allegedly caught right in the middle of it is Australian billionaire James Packer.
המיליארדר האוסטרלי ג'יימס פאקר ואת קשריו עם ראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו.
העניין הבא שלנו, ג'יימס פאקר.
James Packer has been making near daily headlines across Israel.
ג'יימס פאקר, האזרח מספר 1 של ישראל.
Packer is involving and Milton is involving in paying for all kinds of things for the Prime Minister and his wife.
שהרעיף המיליארדר על בנו של ראש הממשלה יאיר נתניהו את הנגישות והקרבה שלהם זכה.
It's been big news in Israel. It also needs to be big news here in Australia. Mr. Packer needs to be given an opportunity to explain himself, but on the face of it, it would seem extraordinary if the AFP did not conduct a thorough investigation of these very serious allegations.
The relationship between one of Australia's richest men and the Prime Minister of Israel can be traced back to a star-studded dinner held in Mr. Netanyahu's honour in March 2014. The evening's host was Hollywood producer and Israeli billionaire businessman Arnon Milchan. There, but hiding from the cameras, was the party's co-host, James Packer.
I think Mr. Milchan was the guy who brought him to Israel, introduced him to the Prime Minister. Mr. Milchan knew Mr. Packer's father, so they are very close.
Soon, Mr. Packer became part of the pack.
He's not Jewish, but there was a very immediate chemistry, even a click between him and Mr. Netanyahu and Sarah Netanyahu. He became a very close friend in the most intimate circuits.
The relationship quickly developed. Mr. Packer purchased a $1 million beachfront mansion in Israel, right next door to the private home of Mr. Netanyahu. And the billionaire began making substantial investments in Israel's booming tech market.
I know that no matter on which side of the aisle you sit, you stand with Israel.
Then, in March 2015, James Packer was a surprise guest in the audience as Mr. Netanyahu addressed the US Congress in Washington.
I've long said that the greatest danger facing our world is the coupling of militant Islam with nuclear weapons.
James Packer then appeared at another speech Mr. Netanyahu gave to the UN General Assembly in New York later that year, standing with senior Israeli officials and the Netanyahu family. Questions began to be asked.
Mr. Packer is sitting with the Israeli Prime Minister in the closed session before the Prime Minister is going to speak in front of the General Assembly of the UN.
Raviv Drucker is one of Israel's most acclaimed investigative journalists, working with the Channel 10 network. His recent report on James Packer's relationship with the Prime Minister caused shockwaves across Israel. The report alleged the Australian billionaire showered lavish treatment on the Prime Minister's family, particularly on his 25-year-old son, Yair, claiming Mr. Packer gave the PM's son numerous free luxurious holidays at properties he owns and rents around the world.
נסע שוב יאיר נתניהו לחופשה מפנקת. זו אחוזתו הענקית של המיליארדר פאקר באספן, קולורדו.
A spokesperson for Mr. Netanyahu told Channel 10 that Mr. Packer is a friend of the family and that the 25-year-old Yair has the right to be hosted by friends.
They never denied the fact that was in my report about the dates, the places, and the circumstances of those vacations. They try to say that it's all legitimate because they are friends.
Just a few weeks after Raviv Druka's report aired, Israel's Attorney General announced that a corruption probe into the Prime Minister's dealings had been upgraded into a criminal investigation. Since the 2nd of January, Mr. Netanyahu has been questioned 3 times by police from the National Anti-Fraud Unit. The latest, just last Friday.
Packer and his friend Arnold Milchan, who is an Israeli-American tycoon, a big producer from Hollywood, are paying together for all kinds of luxuries for the Prime Minister and his wife. Champagne, exclusive champagne, and cigars, and a gourmet chef that will come to prepare them all kinds of meals in their house.
What kind of scandal is this? An entire investigation is being conducted on television. Every evening, edited cherry-picked transcripts and lies are spread regarding both matters at hand.
While the Prime Minister has been adamant there's nothing wrong with receiving gifts from friends, Mr. Packer hasn't responded at all. But many here keep asking this question.
למה פאקר כל כך נדיב כלפי משפחת נתניהו?
730 has no evidence to suggest James Packer tried to bribe anyone here in Israel. But a meeting between his Israeli lawyer and the Minister of Interior here does reveal one important thing that Mr. Packer may have wanted from Israel. The Interior Minister told the ABC that he met with James Packer's lawyer, who asked about the procedure needed in order to arrange citizenship or residency for Mr. Packer, something that could bring him significant tax benefits.
Packer has this vision of coming to Israel and gets all kinds of tax benefits. And in order to get it, and access to the Prime Minister and to his close advisors could be a great help for him.
Mr. Packer didn't respond to 730's questions about the meeting with the Interior Minister, nor did he answer any questions about his relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Could you imagine if a foreign businessman here in Australia gave lavish gifts to a political leader that's in the position to make a decision as to their residency status, as to their tax status, if you like? I would have thought it would be no less than a political furore.
The AFP have told 730 they do not confirm who they are investigating. But the ABC understands there is no active inquiry into Mr. Packer's dealings in Israel. 730 doesn't suggest Mr. Packer has engaged in any criminal behaviour. However, people in Australia are watching the developments closely, as Mr. Packer's position on the board of Crown Casinos could depend on what the Israeli authorities find.
James Packer is really one of our most important and foremost business people. I've no doubt he's got the best advisors in the world, and I trust that they would be advising him to act very cautiously in relation to these matters, because as the figurehead of the Crown organisation, those licences would be under attack if there were any personal wrongdoing on his part.
I'm sure that they want to question him. I'm sure that the moment he will land in Israel, they will want to speak with him. I'm not saying that he will be in a position of a suspect. Maybe he will be in a position of a witness. They will want to ask him, how much present did you give? What was the pattern of giving it? What was the reasoning for it?